This is the Enlisted podcast, episode number 2 with HM3 Andrew Rothman, United States Navy. There are people who try to help, and there are extraordinary people who selfishly give everything for someone else. Navy Petty Officer 3rd Class Richard D. DeWert, a hospital corpsman, is the latter. And that's why he's our latest Medal of Honor Monday honoree. This is from defense.gov. DeWert came of age during World War II. He was eager to serve. So when he became old enough, he enlisted in the Navy in December 1948, when he was only 17. After basic training, he joined the hospital corps and worked for about a year at the U.S. Navy Hospital in Portsmouth, Virginia. When he became a hospital corpsman in April 1950, he was eligible to serve alongside Marines in the field. So when the conflict in the Korean Peninsula grew inevitable, DeWert volunteered to join 1st Medical Battalion of the 1st Marine Division, which deployed in August 1950. DeWert was still in Korea early in 1951 and received orders to transfer to the 7th Marine Regiment, a unit known for its major engagements, sustaining more casualties than just about any other Marine unit during the Korean War. Some members of DeWert's platoon said they spent much of the spring in 1951 crossing swollen rivers and climbing steep mountains, pushing against the 117th Division of Chinese Communists. It was in a battle that DeWert gave his life. On April 5th, 1951, DeWert was part of the unit that headed to meet a few other friendly units near Kunshan, just across the 30th parallel in North Korea. As they headed up a rocky hillside, they came under fire by entrenched enemy force. Unfortunately, his luck had run out, and as DeWert crossed the field to help a 4th Marine that was shot by the enemy, he was shot and killed instantly. The 19-year-old has been with the battalion for less than a month. And in May 27, 1952, Navy Secretary Dan Kimball presented his mother with the Medal of Honor on her son's behalf. And joining me today is a Navy veteran who was embedded with 1st Battalion, 7th Marines during Iraq. He joined the Navy in February 2003. He was assigned to the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines out of 29 Palms and deployed to Iraq. He was there between August 2004 to March 2005, where he received the Purple Heart, and he was deployed again in February 2006 to October 2006 before he was medically retired in 2008. I'm going to introduce Andrew Rothman.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Andrew, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I see
that
you're on the road. And
yeah, it's a beautiful day here in Miami. You got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous that you're in Miami.
I was hoping
the
to be
weather
at the
is much
beach,
nicer.
really was hoping to be at the beach and really rub it in, but my wife canceled those plans.
So, yeah, I mean, we're living in crazy times right now. We, I've been watching the news these last couple of days and watching the coverage on what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. And I always wondered from the time that we served, because we were actually there during a conflict, not watching it on TV. I got to say, I'm a little disappointed in listening to all these experts that know so much about war and conflict. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I hear a lot of talking heads talking about we should intervene and this and that. And, I mean, war is, the most horrible thing you'll ever experience. And, for people that have no skin in the game to be so quick to volunteer American blood for a foreign conflict, I mean, it's kind of, to me, it's you think we would have learned our lesson. I mean, you think we would have learned our lesson after Vietnam. Then you had Afghanistan, Iraq. I mean, what are we doing?
Right.
So I don't know. It really, I think it's a noble cause. I mean, I would have rather fought in Ukraine than fought in Iraq. You know what I mean?
Right.
As messed up as that is to say, I think the cause is way more justified in Ukraine. But, I don't think, honestly, we should be in either place. But, that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you talk to most veterans who have actually been deployed, I think they would agree. And I think you'll agree with me. During our deployment, when I was deployed in 2003, when you were deployed, it wasn't about the politics. It wasn't about what's going on at home. It was about making sure that your brothers and sisters
Right.
around you get home safe, alive, together
Right.
to see their families. That's all that matters. But this is a just
100%.
cause for the Ukrainians to fight for their freedom,
For
and
sure,
we can
yeah.
give them as much outside support as possible. But hey, we did our time, and
I mean, I think the best part is that the Ukrainian president's inviting foreigners to come fight for them, and I mean, all these people that are it's a great idea. Get on a plane, go to
right,
Poland, walk across the border. Why
right,
you want to send, why you want to send American troops that don't want to go? You know
right.
what I mean? Or look at Sean Penn. Sean Penn really drove me crazy. This nut, he's like, he's in Ukraine right now, and he's begging the U.S. to intervene. Bro, go see the president, go get an AK and intervene yourself. These people, they want everybody else to do the fighting because they have no idea how ugly it really is. They
Well,
saw it,
let's dive into that. So, I mean, what caused you to join the Navy to begin with? And
I mean, not 9/11. We're from New York, and
right.
it's just you have to see in that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how could you not want to go defend your? To me, it was about these fuckers mess with our city. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Right.
it was more of that. I mean, and I mean, I signed up. I had to wait. I think like 13 months to get in because I wanted to be a corpsman. I could have left immediately, but I wanted to be a corpsman, and so I had to wait. So I was in the DEP program for almost over a year almost.
Right. What
So
most people don't realize is that the recruiters got like a certain amount of quota they got to hit for certain positions. So if you want something specific, sometimes you got to wait.
right.
So you went to boot camp at the Naval Station, Great Lakes. Tell me
Right.
about that experience.
That was freezing. I was there in the wintertime.
Right.
With the wind chill, it was -10. 0 in the single digits all the time. It's right next to the Great Lakes, so that wind coming off the Great Lakes was terrible.
I
But
know it well.
Yeah, I mean,
For
it was
some
fairly
reason.
easy though. I mean, if you were in shape, Navy boot camp was fairly easy. I mean, and I didn't have a problem with it. Some guys do, but it was pretty simple. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it.
So how long was the
Uh,
training that you had to do afterwards to go to
oh,
medical school to be a field medic?
my course, the primary school, the A school as we call it, was I think like 4 months, 5 months. And then I went to Camp Lejeune to do the field medical training. You train. It's basically like a Marine boot camp, but you get the weekends off. You know what I mean? They basically, it's a couple of Marine instructors, a couple of corpsman instructors, and they teach you how to be a Marine, and then they teach you how to treat combat wounds and all that stuff. And then there's like I wouldn't call it a crucible, but something similar towards the end where you're on like a 2-day field op, and it's I
When
guess
during
it's hard.
when during the process, because Navy corpsmen are eligible to wear the EGA on their uniforms.
Right. Well,
When does that become?
Well, they give you the Marine Corps uniforms, but you're not really allowed to. You have to earn that. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
that pin that they give us, the Fleet Marine Force pin, and that takes 2 years to get. You got to memorize all the weapon systems, their max effective range, their rates of fire. You got to do the same thing with the aircraft. You got to do the same thing with the the vehicles, and what else? You have to learn hand signals, maneuvers, all this stuff. Everything a Marine would need to know, you would need to know for that. And then you got to do a test, a written test, and you do an oral board as well. And then you get it. I got mine in Iraq. It took me like a year. I got mine in Iraq right when we were coming home. And, with all the studying and all that stuff, it took me about a year to get all that. So, yeah.
So besides having to treat Marines and work with the 1st Battalion 7th Marines, you had to study to earn that at the same time.
Right. And I mean, for corpsmen, it's more of, when your platoon accepts you, when your Marines, that's when you're like, like when your Marines start telling you, you know, you're the toughest Marine in the platoon, doc, or something like that. That to me was worth more than a stupid pin. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, once you earn your, and they told us in field med school, you can never fall out of a hump. You can, never let your Marines see your weakness, because once they do that, they start questioning, well, if I'm shot in the middle of a street, will Doc be able to get me? And that's the last thing you want them to think. So you got to be tougher than them, mentally, and you got to be able to physically keep up, So it's the process, but
Did you, when you joined and you knew that you wanted to become a combat medic, did
Right.
you realize that you would have that challenge ahead of you?
I mean, I knew it would be difficult. I read up on corpsmen and their history and stuff like that. I knew it would definitely be, it would be a difficult transition, a difficult process. But, I was ready for it. I wanted, I guess you could say, payback. And, I wanted to do what I was supposed to do.
Now, when you were deployed, tell me a little bit about your deployment, to the first deployment to Iraq, where you received the Purple Heart.
That one was rough. I mean,
that was just after the turn where the insurgency really kicked in. I was there from the invasion to about October, late October of 2003, and it just started dying down enough where they started allowing people who were stop loss to get out, and they were allowing rotations to start happening. So I left at a period where it seemed to die down. I was in Diwania, and we were running missions out of there for a while, and then we got to rotate out. And then I remember after getting back in 2004, they basically took our company up again, and I was getting ready to get out, so I didn't have to go back to second. But they took my whole company back and threw us out there again. And me and the selected few that we didn't have enough time unless we re-enlisted. And I already had received a letter from the NYPD that I was going to get a job with them, so I decided not to go. But yeah, that's right around the time the insurgency picked up, and you were back in the shit. Tell me a little bit about it.
We relieved 3-7, which is where Jason Dunham. We were in the city. Jason Dunham got the Medal of Honor. You didn't see it on the news. One time, a reporter came and tried to broadcast off the roof of one of our buildings. They shot an RPG at this guy. Like, you never heard anything about it. But I mean, we were in combat, and I don't mean like getting mortared. We got mortared every day, but we were shooting and fighting the enemy every single day we were there. I don't think there was a day that we didn't, shoot at people. It was rough. We took a bunch of casualties.
Which is where you come in, being the doc. Everybody looks to the doc. I mean, you are like the Marines' favorite guy or girl that's attached to. I mean, we always look up for you guys for everything. I mean,
well, you have an important, an important role to play, not just in combat, but then when you get back, when you just want to relax, you got to make sure that the guy's mental health's okay. Stuff like that. I mean, make sure that they're taking care of themselves, and you got to put on, like, for different people, you got to put on different personalities, and, read, you got to kind of read how people are just to, try to get along. We had some intense times over there. Not everybody can deal with it the same way. So you have to really be on top of your stuff and, make sure your guys are all right. I mean, not even, besides just combat.
I was going to say, just an issue that I had was my feet looked like Swiss cheese a couple of weeks into the invasion, and I had a hard time walking on them, and I had to go see the doc, and
it was those mop boots, right?
Yeah, I basically had to, scrape the dead skin off my feet with a K-bar. It was pretty nasty, but yeah, I mean, you see the doc for everything.
I mean, it's not just combat. I mean, if you got a stuffy nose or a sprained ankle, any kind of medical issue, you come to see us and we try to take care of it. So it's it's a big responsibility for a 19, 20-year-old kid to be in charge of the medical health of 40 Marines, but war makes you grow up pretty fast, I guess, and you do what you got to do.
Right. I mean, how old were you during that time? You were in your young 20s, right?
I turned 21 in Iraq. My first deployment, I turned 21 in Iraq. So,
wow.
Shitty.
Yeah.
I missed it by like a couple of weeks too.
Yeah.
I would have been home in a couple of weeks. So I missed it. So.
I just turned 20. I just turned 21 in November, and then we deployed in January. So I got a good couple months into heavy drinking before,
I made up for it when I got home.
Oh, I'm sure we all. I remember coming home. I spent like 27 days like in a blackout.
I'm sure.
So So now, dealing with the Marines' problems on deployment, dealing with all types of medical issues, and then when you came back before your second deployment, how was the transition back to a quieter kind of usual rotational, your basic day-to-day? I mean, I know for me, the first week, I would say, was pretty rough, just trying to adjust back to just driving a car instead of a Humvee,
right.
just even that was a challenge. I mean, I tell you, I blew all my money real quick. I bought like a brand new Mustang, and I'm rocking a Mustang,
You were the new Mustang guy.
Yeah. I wish I would have had better advice. And I tell anybody who's listening who's in the service, save your money.
I went to Vegas because we were 2 hours from Vegas. So
yep.
I went to Vegas and blew all my money. I had a good time.
29 Palms, for those who don't know, is in the middle of nowhere in the desert, but close enough to Vegas. That's where you go on your weekends in order to do anything.
It's actually not a bad location. It's it's in the middle of nowhere, but you're 2 hours from San Diego, 2.5 hours from LA, 2 hours from Vegas, 3 hours from Phoenix. So you have good weekend options, I'd say.
Right, but during the week, I mean,
it's terrible. It's terrible. It's meth heads everywhere.
Now, dealing with transitioning, back into a regular day-to-day, and then you're told again you got to deploy again. Was that
right? Yeah, we came home immediately. They said we're going back in 10 months, and so in your head you're like, I mean, I did not expect to survive that deployment, like 100%. Like after I got wounded, I was like, all right, I got lucky that time. I was like, there's no fucking way I'm gonna survive another one. And I mean, I had been IED'd before in vehicles on foot, and I didn't expect to survive it. And so, I mean, when you come home and they immediately say, all right, go take a month off, but we're immediately coming back and training because we're going back in 10 months. You're just like, well, fuck. You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
I mean, you have a month of, kind of relaxing, but then you just have this anxiety that, holy shit, I'm going to have to survive that again. There's no, I don't know how I survived that one. You think I'm going to survive another one? So, it was tough mentally. I mean, there was a lot of drinking, a lot of partying. I mean, you have no really other ways to cope. And, at least back then, it's 2004, 2005, asking for mental health help got you sidelined and basically blacklisted.
Right.
And, I knew I knew I was having problems, you know what I mean? Like coping with it. So I knew my Marines were too. So I tried to do everything I could. Luckily I had a good relationship with my doctors. They trusted me as a corpsman. If I told them I need a prescription for this or that, they would just give it to me. So, I tried to keep everything as low key as I could to try and help my Marines. But at the same time, I knew there were certain things I couldn't do, any kind of mental health medication is, it's not gonna fly. They're going to take your gun away. So,
and that's the thing that most people don't realize. Like, you come back looking for help, but then if you ask for it, it's like, they kind of screw you at the same time, but you feel like you can't ask. And I think they've changed it recently. Like, things have gotten better on that end from what I understand.
I hope so.
But yeah, it was like, I remember coming back, they stick you in the theater and they would play some kind of mental health thing on a big screen with 300 other guys. How is that,
they're checking a box,
really?
That's all they're doing.
Yeah,
That's what they can say. And I blame the leadership, to be honest with you, because, we know how we feel. We know what's going on in our heads, and we can see it in our brothers' faces and stuff
Right.
like that. And, if you ask, if you sprain your ankle, you're going to get called a pussy or a malingerer or something like that. You know what I mean? And I had guys who legitimately had broken bones that would just keep going, like
Right.
crazy shit that, shouldn't have been like that. Take a nap, baby. Sorry, I got my daughter here.
That's all right.
Just getting ready to sleep. And so, I blame the leadership because they create an environment where you're afraid to ask for help. And I mean, I'll be honest, there was 16 guys from my battalion that got killed in the war. We've had way more than that at this point that have committed suicide that I know about.
Right.
I don't even know a lot of the other ones, like I don't know Alpha Company or Charlie Company. I maybe know one or two guys from there. But I mean, from my company alone, I mean, we had about 20 guys commit suicide already. It's insane. And who's to say if we would have dealt with it in the beginning, if we would have dealt with it in the beginning when we first got home, if that would have happened,
Right.
Instead they learned to suppress all these emotions and let it bottle up. I did the same thing. I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones, and I survived my demons,
That's why when I hear people calling for the drum beats of war now that never had skin in the game, the people that make the decisions don't have skin in the game. The people at the upper level of management in the military, they are appointed and promoted based on what they do politically and how political they get. So that's why when I see this, and people that have experienced what you've experienced, should be the voice of reason to listen to. People who actually have been there, that know what war cost, and that have seen what happened after. Because the war doesn't end when you get home. The war continues. It continues for people throughout their lives. And, people commit suicide rates and veterans. It causes a lot of damage long term. And, I agree with you. I think that more attention needs to be paid to that specifically.
Right. I agree. 100%.
So your second deployment, was it as rough as the first one, or did it?
Oh, no. 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines kicked the hell out of that place during Operation Steel Curtain. I mean, they destroyed it, and they killed a lot of the people that were trying to kill us. They got some pretty wild videos on the internet for that. It's cool. This was my first deployment kind of sucked because all we had were those disposable cameras, like the
Yeah. That's
when
what
we
I
came
had.
back in 06, we had digital
Video
cameras. So I got
capability.
some better pictures. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was definitely more tough in the first deployment. So
yeah, I had the paper cameras that I bought. I bought like 4 or 5 of them before my deployment. That I was there during that, like the largest sandstorm, like during the push towards Nasiriyah. They had the big sandstorm that was going on, and my cameras, when I got back, I got them developed. I would say about 90% of the film was ruined from the weathering and everything, and I was pissed. I got some photos. My buddy who had he brought an actual camcorder, which he won't give us the share of all the video that was taken, probably for good reason. But it was quite a difference, just a couple of years. So your second deployment was a little more low key.
Yeah, it was nice. It was kind of like a closure thing. And for me anyway, I mean, we were, like I said, that first deployment, we were, that was a crazy deployment. And then we go back to the same area on the Syrian border, and it's like a completely different place. I mean, the people are happy to see us. We're dealing with the local sheikhs and the leadership. Half the Iraqi battalion that are National Guard battalion there was half of them were guys when we were here, and you can't really blame. If somebody invades our country, I'm gonna fight them. So but we actually became. I went and watched soccer games because the World Cup was going on, so I went and watched soccer games with them, ate their food, and we actually became great friends. Just kind of realized that we were just two people doing what they have to do, and they were. So I don't know. War's a funny thing like that. Your enemy is now your friend, and
right. Like after
it's pretty interesting.
After things kind of died down initially, they reassigned us to train the new police for the police departments out there, and we were getting told by the people like that's a bad guy. Like he was, used to be an enforcer, back
Right.
a Republican Guard, and they would just tell us all this stuff. But then they're like, now we have to train them to take over because we don't want to stay there long term, which we end up staying there long term anyway.
Right.
But the plan, I mean, aftermath, I think was a mess. So
Yeah.
coming back from that deployment, yeah, right. That's what happens. These guys who were in charge, I think only,
Yeah.
and this is a disturbing number, that like only 15 or 20% of our congressional body is vets, and that's a
I
problem.
don't even think it's that high, is it?
I think last I looked, it's somewhere between 15, 20. It used to be like in the 70s.
Yeah, it used to be
50 years
almost
ago.
everybody. Yeah.
You almost had to be that on your
They also,
resume.
right. Yeah. And I honestly think, my friends joke about this, like in Starship Troopers, how you have to be in the military to even vote. Like,
Right.
I mean, we can't do that, but like at least politicians, I mean, you should have some kind of, if you're going to send people off country, you should have at least experience this. If I was in Congress, which I mean, I'm way too crazy, and I've done way too much crazy stuff. But if I was in Congress, I would do everything in my power, unless it was an absolute necessity to our security, like that, and it was going to happen again. I would, the last thing of the war, because it's just pointless, and I mean, it has to be, I haven't seen a good reason to go to war in my lifetime. 9/11 was a great reason, but our response, staying in Afghanistan, was ridiculous. We should have sent the special forces guys in, mopped up Al Qaeda, and got the hell out of there.
Right. For some reason, I think other special interests. I was to say other special interests connected to those politicians that never served are the reason why these wars last 20 years.
Right. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So coming back,
touch on too.
Right. So getting out of the service, you medically retire in 2008. Tell me about that retirement, coming out, and then transitioning back to civilian life. Which, if it wasn't for me getting employed right away by the NYPD, 2 months I was unemployed. I felt like it was some sort of it was basically like a continuation of structure. Structure is very important.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I'd been ID'd a bunch of times. I got wounded. I herniated one of those explosions. We don't know which one. So I was in pain. I got hooked on painkiller for a long time, for a couple of years. I went to school. I never, it didn't really. I went to work in my own apartment in a doorman building. I did everything I was supposed to, but I mean, that stuff just consumed my life. And I think that didn't just numb the physical pain, it's still pain. Any of that crazy stuff. And I didn't face my problem for a while. And then one just stopped. That was horrible. I mean, I was sick for weeks. But I had to straighten myself out. I mean, I couldn't do that the rest of my life. The doctors would just give them to me, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I had medical paperwork from the military showing all my combat injuries, and they would just write them to me. So it's not like it was just it was rough. It was a rough few years. I'd say like 3-4 years. That well, yeah, it was 3-4 years total. But like there was like a good year and a half, 2 years where it was rough. I lost weight. I looked like shit, and eventually I just got tired of it. I joined the electrical union. I straightened out for a little bit. No, not for a little bit. I straightened out, and the union kind of gave me it was structure, and I still went to work every day while I was using, but it was more of the union was more of like a brotherhood thing. It's I wouldn't say it's it's close to them, but it's similar to how the military operates. You have guys that look out for each other, and there's camaraderie and all that stuff. And it was for me, that was the best decision I made when I got out. Eventually I just got tired of living in New York, and
so did I.
Yeah. My back.
All right. So, I would say for you, Miami, getting into that family brotherhood environment with the union And kind of like for me, going into the police department was just
Right.
a
Same
continuation
thing.
of structure. I got
Right.
lucky that I had that
Right.
transition that quick. A lot of
Right.
people don't have that quick transition, and then they have the struggles and demons they have to fight to get to
Right.
that. And now look at you. I mean, I see things that on social media with you, man. You make me laugh with the jokes that you play on your boys, for sure. But it's great to see that you have a family, that you're happy, sunny
Yeah.
skies every day for you, which is a big transition
It's
that
nice.
most, a lot of people don't get, and you got to count your blessings. So I first off, thank you for your service. Thank you. This is why we do this podcast. This is why I do this podcast, is to get people like you who live that 9 to 5 regular day, that had to serve for their country and had, skin in the game. And we need to get those stories out there, because the people who don't have skin in the game make most of our decisions. And I think if people hear from word of mouth what actually has happened during deployments, how the structure actually works, they might be a little bit, you know, more respect for those who served, and maybe people will listen. So I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So I know you got a lot going on today. I appreciate you taking the time to come on, and I want to, reach out to, anybody that's watching this, anybody that's listening to this. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you comment. Make sure you rate the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify. It helps us get more views, more listens on YouTube. Like and subscribe to the channel, and so we can continue to bring content and bring on veterans like Andrew here, who is, thank you for your service and everything you did to keep those Marines from 1st Battalion, 7th Marines going during that heavy time. So I'm going to end on that. It seems that we've lost Andrew. Reception. Technology, wonderful thing. So thank you again. This is the Enlisted Podcast.